So Dana White earlier today just announced a massive announcement. It's going to be Islam Makhachev versus Charles Oliveira headlining UFC 294. It's going to be a huge rematch, potentially Charles Oliveira's final opportunity at fighting for the 155-pound title, because if he loses, he's going to be 0-2 to the champion, Islam Makhachev, and having two losses to the champion, he's not going to have a very good chance of getting a third fight. He's either going to have to win multiple fights at 155, or maybe if he loses to Islam Makhachev, you could see Charles Oliveira go up a weight class if he wins. It's a completely different story. We'll probably get a trilogy, which would be absolutely fantastic. But I will talk about that a little bit later. I do want to address a couple of things at the start of this video. I've been getting a lot of comments and DMs and all sorts of things recently about, like, why am I doing this? Why am I not going live more? Why am I not uploading enough? All sorts of, like, things like that. I can't really commit too much time to YouTube at the moment. University just started back up. I'm a full-time university student. I'm studying mechanical engineering with a minor in aerospace design. And I'm also competing as an amateur boxer. I'm going to be making my debut in October, hopefully. And I've also taken up another sport. You know, I don't have a lot of time for YouTube. Now, don't get me wrong. I absolutely love YouTube. I love making videos. I really appreciate the support that you guys give me. But I can't really commit all of my time to my YouTube channel, so that's why I'm not going to be going as live as much. That's why I'm not going to be maybe just uploading as much as you guys want me to, but I will definitely be going live with the UFC fight cards, and I will be going live for Dana White's Contender Series as well. A lot of content is coming up for Dana White's Contender Series soon, and I will be onto it, and I will be making videos for it, but I did just kind of want to address that at the start of this video. And now with that being said, let's start talking about this fight, because I think this is a massive fight. I think with the current situation, probably the biggest fight that you could make. I would almost argue as well that Oliveira versus Makhachev rematch is a bigger fight than Volkanovski versus Makhachev rematch. Now, that could be wrong, but in my opinion, Charles Oliveira is a more popular fighter worldwide than Alexander Volkanovski is. Now, don't get me wrong. We all love Volk. He does headline UFC 290, but Charles Oliveira is a guy that has proven to sell pay-per-views time in and time out. He was one of the highest selling pay-per-view stars in 2021, I believe it was, when he was the champion and he was headlining those pay-per-views, and he was an active champion, and we all kind of learned to love Charles Oliveira in 2021 and also earlier 2022. But he did just lose to Islam Makhachev recently, so that is why we've got the rematch here. Now, Makhachev versus Volkanovski too would be fantastic. I think that is definitely a fight further down the line. I think Volkanovski will probably fight Topuria at the end of the year and then take on Islam Makhachev maybe at the start of next year. But to talk about this fight in particular, it's not an easy one for the boy Charlie Olives, is it? It's really not. I mean, I'm going to be honest. It's going to be a pretty tough matchup for, honestly, my favorite fighter. I'm going to be open and honest about that. Charles Oliveira is my favorite fighter. I absolutely love Charles Oliveira, but it's just not a good matchup for him. Now, I did pick Charles Oliveira in the original fight because I thought it was going to be a really good stylistic matchup for him. I thought Charles Oliveira wasn't going to be afraid to go down to the ground. I thought Charles Oliveira was going to be able to open up on the feet. And I think actually Charles Oliveira's willingness to go down to the ground was actually his downfall in that matchup. I think Charles Oliveira was too willing to be put on his back against Islam Makhachev, because when you did see Charles Oliveira fight against Beneil Dariush, once again, he pulled guard. He pulled guard and he was happy working underneath Beneil Dariush. You can't do that against Islam Makhachev. Now, hindsight is 2020, but at the time before he beat Charles Oliveira, Makhachev was coming off a win over Bobby Green, Dan Hooker, and Thiago Moises. He wasn't really fighting the best guys in the world, but now we know that Islam Makhachev is a world-class athlete. We know that he's beaten Charles Oliveira before. We know he's got a very good chance of doing it again. And one thing as well, I'm going to give Islam Makhachev the credit for, I think we were all surprised at how good his striking looked against Alexander Volkanovski. I think everybody was quite unanimous in the opinion that Islam Makhachev was going to go out there and absolutely destroy Volkanovski in the wrestling. But as long as the fight was on the feet, Volkanovski did have a good chance to score points and maybe, just maybe, make something happen. But we all believed that Islam Makhachev was going to dominate Volkanovski in the ground. That's what I said was going to happen. As a big fan of Volkanovski, I said that was going to happen. It didn't happen though. Volkanovski looks really good against Makhachev, but I think that is just a credit to how good Volkanovski is. And stylistically, Volkanovski's a different fighter to Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira, he is a BJJ nerd, and I do give BJJ nerds a little bit of flack. You know, they're not really my favorite fighting style, but Charles Oliveira has that legendary shoot box aggression on the feet, which is gonna, it's gonna get him caught, man. Like he goes out there super aggressive, and Islam Makhachev, you know, he could take him down. Makhachev could catch him again. Now, if you do watch it back, I mean, when Makhachev hit Charles Oliveira with the overhand right after Charles Oliveira missed that jumping front kick, Charles Oliveira, it was like a delayed knockdown. It was almost like when he was pulling guard against Gaethje, like he would get rocked and he'd just go back to his back. Like when you watch his fight against Gaethje, yes, he does get rocked and yes, he does get dropped genuinely, but at least one of those times where he gets hit, he just pulls guard because he knows Gaethje's not going to follow him down. And I believe he did employ something similar against Makhachev, but Makhachev wasn't scared to take him down. Makhachev wasn't scared to go down to the ground, and it definitely cost him. I just hope Charles Oliveira, if he does come in here, he makes adjustments to not pull guard against Islam Makhachev. And I think, honestly, on the feet, Oliveira will have a lot of success if the fight stays on the feet. But the problem is, Makhachev can get him down to the ground. And yes, Oliveira is dangerous off his back. Makhachev can do a lot of work on top. He really can. He's got some of the best ground and pound in the game. He's a very good grappler himself. He can stay safe. You know, we did see Volkanovski manage to make something happen as well. So maybe Oliveira, if he kind of comes in there with a good game plan, he might be able to make the most of it, get on top of Makhachev himself, and start making his own work kind of happen. But it's just a tough matchup for the boy Charlie Olives. It really is. I am looking forward to the fight. And don't get me wrong, I do believe that Charles Oliveira, I still do believe, genuinely, that Charles Oliveira does have a good chance to win this fight. And the reason why is he's so dangerous. Charles Oliveira is dangerous. He's dangerous on the feet, and he's dangerous on the ground. He's a very, very good striker, very technical, very aggressive, but also on the ground, he's very aggressive as well in the BJJ that he does. Now, I think as well, that aggression definitely does kind of hinder him in some ways. Like he was getting caught against Justin Gaethje on the feet when they were fighting, they were scrapping, they were going to war in that fight. But then when he was fighting against Beneil Dariush, yes, I thought he looked great against Beneil Dariush. And I picked Charlie Olives. I picked him to beat Beneil Dariush. And he got it done in the very, very first round after a beautiful head kick. The head kick was there all day. Landed the head kick, finished him off down on the ground. But you've got to remember that Charlie Olives pulled guard against Beneil Dariush, and when I was watching this happen and I watched it live, I was like, no, Charlie, no, because he didn't learn anything from the Islam fight, you know? That was his downfall. The fact that he's so willing to go down to the ground is his downfall. I thought that was going to be an advantage for Charles Oliveira. I thought being willing to go down to the ground with Islam Makhachev would be an advantage for Charlie Olives. I mean, like I was saying in the breakdown coming up to the first fight, Olives isn't scared of the grappling. He's not scared to get taken down. He wants to get taken down. But once again, hindsight is always 20/20, and that was the hindrance in his first fight against Islam Makhachev. Do I think Charles Oliveira can get something done? Yes, I really do. I do. Oh, man, I'm going to pick Makhachev. I am going to pick Makhachev. Maybe my mind will change. I'm going to try my best to not let anything get into the way. But, man, I think this is just a bad matchup for Charlie Olives. Hindsight's always 20/20 because I genuinely thought it was going to be a good matchup for Charlie Olives. I thought he wasn't going to be scared to go down to the ground. I thought because he wasn't scared to go down to the ground, he was going to be aggressive on the feet. I thought that would leave openings because all of Islam Makhachev's previous opponents have been terrified of going to the ground with him. I thought Charles Oliveira would not be, and that was his downfall. That was genuinely his downfall. He was too willing to go down to the ground, which is crazy and weird to say, I know, but I mean, it's just not the best stylistic matchup for Olives. It's a good stylistic matchup, but once again, like it just didn't quite prove to be as good of a stylistic matchup as I thought so. I genuinely thought that Olives was going to beat Makhachev the first time, but there's going to be an interesting fight. It's another fight. Olives looked very good against Beneil Dariush. He looked sharp on the feet. We know that he's recently got surgery on his eyes as well, so he's got better vision. There's lots of little things as well. It can play a factor. Makhachev's coming off that close fight against Volk, which Volk was able to have a lot of success in. There's a lot going on here going into this fight. I'm looking forward to it. I think the fans should be looking forward to it as well. This is going to be one of the biggest fights of the year. Islam Makhachev's a massive name. Charles Oliveira is one of the biggest names in the UFC as well. Huge, huge fight for Charles Oliveira. Massive legacy-defining fight for Charles Oliveira as well, because Oliveira is up there in the conversation as one of the greatest lightweights of all time. He almost equaled Khabib's record. He beat all of Khabib's best wins and beat them earlier and faster. He beat Dustin Poirier, finished him before Khabib did. He finished Justin Gaethje before Khabib did. So there's a lot of comparisons that you can draw to their career. He beat Tony Ferguson, and Khabib never fought Tony Ferguson. So for Charles Oliveira, if he can beat Islam Makhachev, it's going to be a massive legacy-defining fight for his career. I genuinely do believe that. But, man, it's just not a good fight for him, you know. It just isn't. So, man, I'm going to go with Islam Makhachev to beat Charles Oliveira again. I think Islam Makhachev, he's an interesting case because he's been talking about how he doesn't really want to fight too much. He wants to retire soon himself. So, I think Islam Makhachev might be a case where he has the opportunity to overtake Khabib as the greatest of all time, but he might retire too soon. Like, I don't know, because you got to remember. Does anybody else remember this when Islam Makhachev was talking about how he wants to retire after only a couple of title defenses? I mean, I remember that. So it'd be interesting to see if Islam Makhachev beats Charles Oliveira and then beats a couple more contenders. He's absolutely 100% in the conversation for the greatest lightweight of all time. But, I mean, aside from that, the card is good. I'm going to make more individual videos about this. When Israel Adesanya versus Sean Strickland gets announced, I'll make a video on that. There's a lot of sort of little videos that I can make now, thankfully, to all these new announcements. Dana White's Contender Series predictions will be coming out soon. I'll try and get on top of them and give early picks for the cards, and then I'll do my genuine breakdowns as well on top of that. So there's a lot kind of content to come your way, guys. I'm definitely I'm working on it. You know, I'm the busy guy. I genuinely am busy. And with all that being said, I thank you guys so much for watching the video. Please leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't already and you want to see more. I'm looking forward to this fight. I'm looking forward to all the other fights. I'm going to be making videos on all of the fights. It's going to be a very good time to be a UFC fan when UFC 294 rolls around. And with all that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one.